Thank you very much for joining. Before we get started, I just want to remind all participants, the purpose of this presentation is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as a recommendation to purchase or sell any security. MicroCapClub is not a registered investment advisor. MicroCapClub, its partners, members, subscribers, and affiliates may or may not hold positions in one or more of the securities mentioned on this program and may trade in such securities at any time. Do your own due diligence and seek counsel from a registered investment advisor before trading in any security. I want to thank the MicroCapClub community for tuning into this business breakdowns conversation with Brett Kelly, CEO of Kelly Partners Group, and possibly being joined by Kenneth Ko, who's the CFO of Kelly Partners Group. My tag team partner for this business breakdowns is Aakash, Vanchi, Nath. Aakash is an analyst and co-partner at P&R Investment Management in London and has been a MicroCapClub member since 2023. If you're interested in learning more about Aakash, we'll put a link in the show notes to his work. Aakash, it's an honor to have you on the business breakdowns. Welcome.
Thank you, Adam.
The business we are breaking down today is Kelly Partners Group, which trades on the Australian Stock Exchange under the symbol KPG. Kelly Partners was originally profiled in 2021 by Adrian Hernandez. I'll keep this short as we have a lot to talk about today, but Kelly Partners Group provides accounting services for small and medium-sized businesses. Kelly has a buy and build strategy of acquiring accounting firms in Australia and the US and are planning to expand their playbook to new geographies over time. They've compounded revenues above 20% for over 15 years. Founder and CEO Brett Kelly is key to the business and owns 49% of shares outstanding. Brett will continue to apply the Kelly acquisition and business improvement playbook to a fragmented accounting market. This should enable Kelly to continue to compound capital at a high rate for a very long period of time. Brett, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey, Adam, thanks for the invitation. Happy to be here, and great to see you, Aakash.
Well, as always, Brett, pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Before we get into the presentation, Brett, it's not often that a CEO is also an author and wrote books before or while they were running their business. Can you just talk a little bit about that and how writing plays a part in your life and what you're doing at Kelly Partners?
Adam, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing, I'd be just reading books and trying to work out how things work. At heart, I'm most interested in why questions. Why this works and why people think this way and those sorts of questions. I lost a job when I was 22. I didn't know what I wanted to do. My dad gave me a copy of a book called Think and Grow Rich. It said, find people that have been successful and ask them what they've done. I wasn't sure what I should do with my time and talents. And through a process of writing to 80 prominent Australians, including every living prime minister and other interesting people, I interviewed 34 of those people. I took it to publishers and they said, well, you're not a prominent person, so who will read your book? I said, if you're 22 and you're unemployed and you write a book, maybe somebody will be interested in it. They didn't agree, so I raised the money from 7 investors after I'd spent my life savings that I'd saved up since working from the age of 14 as a lawnmower, car washer, and tennis court vacuum leaf picker-upper. I invested all my money in the project. I raised $21,000 from 7 investors, $3,000 each, published the book, self-published it, and it became a #1 bestseller in the Australian market. And it was called Collective Wisdom. The idea of wisdom is deep understanding, and the idea of collective was, 34 people had done very interesting things, sharing ideas to a young person who didn't know what they wanted to do. So it was simply an effort in learning and sort of modeling what works. And I sort of went out of that experience back into chartered accounting, knowing that accounting businesses are great businesses. I'd been reading everything I could on, Warren Buffett since I was 16. I had found him through Philip Fisher's of Common Stock and Uncommon Profits, which is, one of my top 5 favorite books. And that had sort of led me down that path. And And, you know, that's how I got into the book writing thing. There's a great documentary series called 7 Up, and it studied 7 kids every 7 years from the age of 7 in the UK on really a study of whether it's nature or nurture that affects how people grow up. It's the most successful documentary series in history. And that led me to believe that it was a good idea every 7 years to stop, reflect on what you've been doing, and write another book. So every 7 years since 1998, I've written a book in a wisdom series. That's 25 years, 26 years now, to force myself to stop and look and just work out whether I'm on the right path. Having lost that job, I went into an outplacement service where I met a lot of 50-year-olds who somebody took their business card and they'd taken their whole life and identity, and they were, you know, asking themselves questions. I spoke to many of these, you know, almost entirely men who were saying, you know, I don't know how I got here. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm now in my 50s, mid 50s, and I'm pretty lost and confused. So I decided I didn't want to get busy and be very unconscious. So that's kind of the book writing thing. It's just an effort to grow in wisdom. You know, fundamentally, I think life is about growing in wisdom, growing in deep understanding.
Excellent. It's really interesting. And I read somewhere that you send boxes of your books to potential acquisition targets. Is that true?
Yeah, like it's, you know, when you talk about books, it's, you know, it's 4 books. They're 300-page books. This thing weighs, I don't know, 6-7 kilos. If I send this to somebody because I want to do a podcast with them, or I want to, you know, talk to them about their firm, it's kind of a bit of a stealth business card. If you send that to somebody, it's pretty hard to ignore, and normally they'll give you a call back, and we can have a conversation about, you know, what the opportunities are to do things together. You know, being a little bit more interesting than the average accountant isn't necessarily a handicap.
Gotcha. Very interesting. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Great. So let's get into the presentation. As a reminder to the audience, if you have any questions, you can ask them by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom screen and entering your questions there. With that, Brett, the floor is yours.
Well, Adam, I think we had 3 questions set through. Would you like me to sort of run through the questions, or just run through
No.
Kelly Partners generally?
Brett, that was more like I'll just do that separately depending on what questions come in. So I think the
Okay.
latter is better.
Okay, perfect. So why don't I just share the Kelly Partners story? You know, essentially, I expect that our Chief Financial Officer, Kenneth Coe, will join us. We were just busily off talking to another firm that I expect will join our group. So I'm sorry about that. Kenny's never late, but he's doing a deal at the moment. So global tax mega trends drive the need for service firms. So basically, there's a shrinking tax base because the boomers are getting older. There's a lot of societal pressure to increase personal taxes. There's competitive pressure to reduce corporate taxes, ongoing government budget deficits, heightened corporate disclosure, and increasing tax complexity and compliance. Essentially, the number one asset of a government is its taxing power, its ability to tax. And so I saw this theme in 2006 and said, well, it looks like tax will be with us for a long time, death and taxes. And I'm here in the tax space. I believe that an accountant can make a real difference to people if they choose to. How can we, you know, actually build a better business in this space? A friend of mine, Scott Elwin, who runs one of our businesses, our first business, asked me to help him build a business. And so he said, Brett, look, you have, you know, 51%. He said, look, you have 75% actually and run the business. I'll have 25 and run the clients. And I refined that to a 51-49 model, knowing that the theme generally was strong. So tax complexity, the Australian Tax Act has grown by 14 times since 1950. I think it's compounded at 13% per annum by number of pages. You know, essentially the incumbents, we believe that the big 4 accounting firms have structural challenges that over the next 25 years will become more apparent. They've certainly got trust challenges. In Australia, I think PwC had lost 25% of their revenue in the last 12 months when there was a major scandal involving the behavior of their partner group. The second tier have really got an ancient non-structure that I think means that they're going to struggle to sort of evolve in a modern and effective way. And so if you consider that's the incumbent industry, we think there's an insurgent opportunity. There's a succession crisis. Basically, 37% of firms are facing a succession crisis in the next 5 years. There's tens of thousands of firms, more than 30,000 in Australia, more than 40 or 50,000 in the US. And across the US, the UK, and Australia, there's a huge succession crisis, mainly driven by the boomer, the baby boomer generation. So in the US, 45,000 firms, annual revenue growth, 9% per annum since 92, a massive market. Our response to the market is really this partner owner driver model that we invented and trademarked and have refined over more than 80 transactions now. So disciplined selection, it's an equity partner model with deeply aligned incentives. We like to say that although our form is corporate as a permanent capital holding company, our attitude is definitely partnership. And what we run with these firms, there's 36 of them now, is a partnership model. So I've got some answer to earlier questions, that I was asked, but they're probably not a bad place anyway to start. I was going to go past them, but serial acquirers do have 3 superpowers: the ability to buy at low multiples for a long period of time, the ability to use appropriate leverage to increase ROE due to stability of the business, the ability to improve margins. What do? We move the margins of the firms we get involved with, which on average in Australia, the US and UK are 18% EBITDA. We increase those margins to 35% plus. And we do that through these really 4 unique pieces to our business. So firstly, clear mission, values, and vision. Most firms are being operated by technical people who are thinking about themselves. We are people that think about others. We keep our promises. We play as part of a team. We believe in the contribution that private business owners, who are our target market, make to the world. They employ 70% of all people. And so we have a real heart for those people, and it drives our team to improve what we do every day for those people. It sounds a bit zen, but we've got people in the business, and people have an enormous capacity to do more. It's called discretionary effort. If they're aligned with mission, values, and vision. Our vision is to build Australia's global accounting firm for driven private business owners, and that tends to motivate people as well. We've got a clear business model. We don't think that people operating in our industry have typically had that. We've built this partner owner driver structure for the operation of these businesses, and we have this central progress team that is a centralized management team that the firms pay a fee to help run their businesses. So we take over 9 out of 12 functions of a business, basically 75% of the operations of the business, and the operating partners run the people, the clients, and brand leadership. So that's kind of the way we represent that. We understand these businesses deeply. They're 2 to 10 million revenue accounting firms looking after private business owners. They have 12 parts. We understand what those 12 parts are, and we understand how to structure and operate those businesses. You'll see behind me my little hedgehog over there. We're just a hedgehog. We don't understand much, but we sure as hell understand accounting firms. And we have a deep passion for it, which gives us an energy other people don't have. Now, a very critical part of our business is that firms pay 6.5% of their revenue for our central progress team, and 2.5% of their revenue, which is a combined fee of 9% for central progress team and IP. That means that we have in the middle of our flywheel this engine to fund the development of the group. Jim Collins talks about your flywheel needs to be driven by mission, but it has to be funded with fuel in order to be able to work. So we have a strong mission that really, mission, values, and vision that drives the business and drives that flywheel forward. But this 9% of reinvestment is what fuels the development of the group. To try and put that in practical terms, if you own a $5 or $10 million accounting firm and your competitor owns a $5 or $10 million accounting firm, if we partner with one of these firms, they've got over $10 million a year being invested into the systems and development of their business, sitting under their business, whereas this firm here doesn't have a single dollar being invested in their business. And over time, the impact of that is gigantic. And so it's important to understand that there's a self-funding and a self-reinforcing mechanism within our model that is completely unique and exists in no other accounting firm in the world. Now, to get that model put in place over more than 80 transactions and now 36 partnerships is not an easy thing to pull off. So that's the way to think about it. Have a look at good to great. Look at the how to take a business from good to great. Think about what a flywheel is and understand these two pieces, and it's game on. Now, high gross margins are key to our business. At the end of the day, you can say lots of interesting things, but high gross margins are a predictor of the strength of a business, and our gross margins are very materially higher than comparable firms, and they are achieved through those combination of activities. There's a great Harvard business case written by Michael Porter on critical activity networks. They are a network of activities that are critical to make something happen within a business. He talks about, in terms of competitive advantage, that you can copy most things today, but what you can't easily duplicate is a series of activities put together in a unique way to deliver an outcome in a business. And I'd certainly recommend that to you for your reading. If you look at our performance versus comparable businesses, I always get a bit of stick when I sort of show people this sort of data, but we look up to the real leaders in the world in terms of individuals and businesses that are world class and that inspire us. I remember when I joined Pricewaterhouse as an undergraduate in 1993, Arthur Andersen were just another accounting firm. Accenture, I believe, were a division within that business, and Accenture didn't exist. Today, Accenture does exist. It's a business worth looking at. Obviously, LVMH has grown during that time. Constellation have grown during that time. Teledyne have grown, historically before that. But there's three businesses we very much admire that have been built in the last 30 years. And, you tend to end up like those people that you spend most time focusing on. And so we sort of try to look up at great businesses and great business leaders rather than look at our industry, which frankly isn't that exciting, certainly not inspiring. So, in terms of my own story, I briefly shared, it's just important across that top row to understand that I've been doing entrepreneurial ventures through learning how to write a book, find the people, get them to talk to me, write a book, turn it into a product and sell that product and make it a bestseller. Long before the age of 22, many years before I started Kelly Partners. I did my undergraduate degree. I did my master's degree in tax. I became a tax agent. I had more than a decade's experience through 4 firms, 12 years before I started the group. And so, when you consider the way that I am, we started with 200,000 of billings, and I had to sign up every new client. So, I'm used to bringing people into our group. In terms of succession in the business, I'm often asked, well, what happens if something happens to you? We have a documented succession plan, and we've had that plan since 2017. We've got nominated successors. If anything was to happen to me, they can run the business. We've got more than 100 equity partners. More than half of them have been with me for more than 10 years. And so you can assume that some of those people are quite intelligent and actually know what they're doing. This is not a single person endeavor by any stretch. there's documented processes within the business, and we've got a senior management team. So back to the business generally, it's a founder-led company. I'd recommend the book Founder's Mentality, written by Bain & Co. It talks about the most sustainable, profitable companies that have outperformed all other, sort of listed companies on the US market over the last 30 years. Founder-led. Why? Because they've got this business insurgency, a willingness to defy industry norms and create new opportunities and markets for customers' evolving needs. Frontline obsession, so vested interest in the finer details and performance of day-to-day operations. You'll see a bit of that in this presentation, and when you're sick of hearing about it, just put your hand up, Aakash, and I'll go to questions. Owner's mindset, so a willingness to accelerate speed of action by taking personal responsibility for risks and costs. So I really recommend that book. It'd be difficult to understand our business without understanding that book. That's a sort of performance of the business over time. There's a bunch of that in this deck, and I guess I just draw people's attention to, if you've got high rates of ROE, high rates of ROIC, and high free cash flow per share. We've grown at an average CAGR of 30%, revenue CAGR for 18 years. We've doubled the business on average every 3.2 years, 6 times in a row. So it would be the best conclusion, in my view, to imagine that we have a business system. Versus a listed peer in CBIZ in the US, our margins are nearly 3 times their margins. Our return on invested capital is more than twice their return on invested capital. Our return on equity is nearly twice, certainly 50% more than their numbers, and our TSR is about the same. So, that won't, I won't make much more comment on that. CBIZ is grown by 10 times by market value in the last 10 years. So I guess in summary, there's enough online for people to really understand us, but we consider ourselves a different operator in a highly attractive accounting services market. There's certainly no one with our model proven over a long period of time anywhere in the world. We have an exceptional track record of disciplined founder-led growth, pursuing programmatic acquisitions, really on an opportunistic basis to drive profitability and returns. We're not trying to become big. We're trying to just be excellent. Annuity-style revenue, virtually 100% annuity-style revenue, supported by a long-standing and diverse SME client base across a diverse number of businesses, across an increasingly diverse number of geographies, which is really risk mitigation. Unique partner-owner-driver model that empowers operators with equity in a platform that delivers operational excellence and enhanced financial returns. Significant runway for continued growth. And a founder-led company with proven ability to deliver the strategy and generate strong long-term returns. So I'm not sure, Aakash, if there's much more that you want me to share. There's tons of it. If you like numbers, I think all of this is public.
Adam, I'll let you drive depending on timing. How do you want to take it?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much for that presentation. That was phenomenal. Really, lots of great color there and very comprehensive. There's a lot to dig into. I think one of the things at the forefront of my thinking and other investors' thinking, when you talk about kind of a buy and improve or buy and build strategy, or just an acquisitive strategy, there's always that question that comes up regarding culture fit. So when you buy a new business, you have your criteria that you check for, but how do you make sure that you can integrate it successfully into your company, and what role does culture play in how you decide to both buy things and then what you do post-acquisition?
Interestingly, Adam, culture is a word that gets thrown around a lot. I don't think it's deeply understood. Culture is an outcome. And so if you want to build, a powerful emotional engagement that drives outcomes within a business, you need to have people aligned to a mission, aligned to a clear set of values, and who share in a vision. Ultimately, culture is something that comes from all of that, and certainly is a result of strong operating performance. So For us, our mission is to help private business owners, those people that employ 70% of all people in Australia, the US, and the UK, be what we call better off. Better off is healthier, wealthier, and wiser. A holistic view of how to help those people that are operating these businesses do better. And so we look to attract people that firstly have the heart and the experience and expertise and ongoing interest to help those people. We then select on clear set of values. So a person for others or a self-centered person, a person that keeps their promises or a person that's a bit loose with keeping their promises, and a person that plays as part of a team versus versus the individualist. And so those three big ideas through our recruitment process, through our 3 different psychometric tests that we use, and through the way that we run our selection funnel, we're actually just looking for those types of people. Now, people tend to self-select very easily into 2 groups of people. Highly technical people have often grown up as intelligent people that are told they're very great, you're very smart, here's a little gold star, and they become very impressed with themselves. We want very good technical people that are very much into being, at the service of other people. So they tend to stand out quite clearly. If we get those people, then we've got to see if they share our vision to really modernize the impact that an accountant can have, where they're proactive and deliver our unique service system. If we find sort of those 3 things, so person that shares our mission, has our clear set of values and shares the vision, then we're going to bring somebody into the team that is going to be aligned and contribute. Out of that, they're in our operating methodology. Within our operating system, they'll be a high-performing person, and that's ultimately what builds this flywheel of what other people call culture.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a great answer. I really appreciate that. Among the acquisitions that have worked, would you say those are the most common, or those are the biggest commonalities in terms of what people share, or can you just provide some more color about the things that have worked well for you?
Yeah, so importantly, we take our values into what we're doing. So for instance, we don't call them acquisitions. We call them partnerships, because that's what they are. We don't see ourselves as a top co, like a head co over the top of people. We see ourselves as a service organization that lifts people up, that takes away a bunch of the stuff that gets on top of accountants, and helps them sort of breathe and feel like they can compete. When we meet these people, some people want to sell themselves. We're not really keen on that. Some people want to be acquired. We're not really keen on that. We're interested in partnerships. Now, when we build these, partnerships, we haven't had a partnership not work. And that's because in order to join our group, it's actually very difficult. So, we run what we call a negative filter. So we try to make it very difficult for you to join the group. For example, our agreements are extraordinarily tough. And so if you're looking for a financial transaction and you don't share our mission, you would never sign those agreements. Secondly, you have to make it minimum 10-year commitment. And so, in Australia, the average marriage lasts 7 years. The average residential mortgage lasts 8 years. I believe that if we had people commit to being in the business for more than 10 years, the research is that if you're in a marriage for more than 10 years, on average, that marriage will last over 25 years. So that we would get long-term people, not short-term people. So the whole system, then there's extensive psychological testing. There's extensive review of your online reputation, what Philip Fisher would call scuttlebutt. I go poking around. We know a lot of people in a lot of places, and we make sure that we're getting the right type of person. We've never tried to grow quickly. We have no target to grow. We have no number of firms we're looking to partner with. We've basically just had this mentality that if we can help make you better off, then we're really keen to do something with you. And hey, frankly, if you're too smart for us and you already know everything, we probably can't help you. So, you know, at the end of the day, time is limited, death is certain. Who you spend your time with matters the most. So we're just trying to put a group of people together that we feel good about, and that want to make a difference to people, and that we genuinely want to help.
Excellent. Yeah, I appreciate that. Last question from me, and then I'll pass it off to Akash. So you have mentioned Buffett in some of your interviews and wanting to kind of emulate some of what he's done. And I think anytime there's a company that acquires a lot of businesses, people kind of, I guess, look to him as a model for doing that successfully. And I see behind you, you have two statues of Charlie and Warren, which is great. And I think I see Poor Charlie's Almanac as well. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Maybe what you've learned from him, if you are trying to emulate any of what he's done, how it relates to, creating shareholder value, et cetera?
Yeah, so Adam, I think I've sort of, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing, I'd be an academic. I'd be a sort of researcher of big ideas and the impact they've made. So if you look at Mortimer Adler, he was the editor-in-chief of Encyclopedia Britannica for years, and he put a series of books together. I've got on my top shelf there called which is essentially a canon of the great books of Western civilization. He published a thing called a Syntopicon, which is the great ideas of Western civilization. So I've always thought from that perspective of, okay, if there's a big idea, where did it come from? Where does it go? And how do you follow that sort of vein of thought, if you like, that seam of gold? So I found Philip Fisher's book originally of Common Stock and Uncommon Profits, and reading that, one of the editions had a quote by Warren Buffett on the front of it. And I thought, well, this book's unbelievable. Who's this guy on the front? And that's how I found Warren. So I started reading his stuff, which led me to Charlie Munger, who, I kind of probably personally identify with more than even Warren. And I joined the EVA group at Pricewaterhouse at 19, so economic value added. I read Alfred Rappaport's book, Creating Shareholder Value, and that was all about, making investment decisions. We earned a return above the weighted average cost of capital. I went into a software company while I was writing my book that actually built the first software, 34 valuation methodologies linked to Bloomberg, and I was training line managers on how to use the EVA methodology for making investment decisions within these large multinational companies. And so it's really these sort of thought veins, if you like, that I've been most interested in. From Warren, in terms of my heroes, from Warren Buffett, I learned this idea of permanent capital and a holding company structure. From David Ogilvy, I learned the idea of, could you build a branded global professional services business? From Bernard Arnault, I learned the idea of buying old businesses and reinvigorating them from the inside out, centralizing the tiniest bit of stuff and decentralizing the rest. From Sam Walton, Made in America, I learned go to places other people don't go, buy businesses no one else wants to buy, and get big in stealth mode, on one platform before anyone notices that you exist. From Ray Kroc, I learned get a branded, simple, productized service offering for a client, and do that over and over. They have a 20-year license agreement with their franchisees. We do a lot of work with McDonald's, so have a minimum 10-year commitment from your partners. And so what I've spent, when I lost my first job and I was writing my book, all I did for years was read books. I've read over 3,000 books. If I read your book, then I try to take, the things that you taught me, and do them in the business. So from Michael Hill Jewelers, listed company in Australia. He was a New Zealand company, came to Australia, wrote a great book called Toughen Up, and said, when you list, make sure you keep 51% so you've got control. So people aren't telling you how to run the business. So, if you walk past me with a good idea, I'll be shameless in terms of my willingness to sort of clone and use that idea. I very much later read Monish Pabrai's book, Dando Investor. Heads, we win, tails, we don't lose. But again, big idea lines up with Buffett's big idea. Rule 1, don't lose money. Rule 2, don't lose money. Rule 3, don't lose money. So I think, as Warren would say, his big ideas come from other people. My big ideas come from him and many other people. I just believe that life's about learning, and, a sort of seamless patchwork of big ideas It was a great book, by the author of the original book on Warren Buffett, so the Warren Buffett Way, called Investing as the Last Liberal Art, of trying to take ideas and put them together in a web of activities and thinking. And that's the way my brain works. So when you apply that type of thinking to an accounting firm, there is a real opportunity, because fundamentally they're very good businesses, but they're generally very, very poorly run. They're not run in a world-class way like a McDonald's, like an Apple, like Walmart. And so that's what we've tried to do, build a business system to, get under these businesses, support the 80% of things that happen, on a consistent basis, and create space for the partners to do that 20%. That's brilliance. So I hope that answers that. What can you learn from Buffett? A lot. A whole co-structure. Treat people well. Compound your reputation over time. I think that Warren's been more focused on compounding his reputation than his capital. I have the personal view that you can compound your big ideas, your values, beliefs, behaviors, and that fundamentally there'll be a better economic return than with any other approach. I think that's, to me, a huge lesson, lesson on life's ultimately about who you spend your time with, the quality of those relationships, and whether the people that you love you, want to spend time with you. These guys are, if you're interested in wisdom, which I am, I think that both Charlie and Warren are very, very wise people.
Excellent. Wow, what a great answer. Thank you very much for sharing all that. I appreciate it. And I can see why your library behind you is so robust. So thank you. Yeah, I'm going to pass off the Q&A to Aakash, and Aakash, take it away. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. Brett, yeah, when I met you for the first time, I think 4 years or 3.5 years ago, I was amazed at how this breadth and depth of knowledge, and I still am amazed, and how it's not only like you consume all this book, but you're also able to apply it so well. So yeah, kudos to you.
I think, Aakash, the ultimate sign of respect for somebody is if they've taken the time to teach you something. I've treated all these people like my teachers. Then if you want to honor a great teacher, you do that by sort of rigorously applying what they've taught you. And something I'd share with the people that are listening is one really great life hack of mine is I have a habit of writing letters to the people that have taught me, no matter who they are, and just writing them a thank you letter and saying, dear so-and-so, I read your book at this time. You taught me this thing. I've applied it in this way, and it's made a real difference to me, and I really appreciate it. And I've received some incredible letters back from some amazing people who, wrote the book and said, I didn't know if anyone would ever even read it, let alone do something with it. So thank you. So, to me, I'm very animated by ideas. My number one strength, we use a Gallup strengths profiling tool, is learning. And to me, you haven't learned something if you don't apply it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think I have to write some letters to you first. Changing to the questions a bit, I of course, the ROE that you mentioned, super amazing at 40% plus. Maybe it'll be useful for the listeners and whoever listens later to understand how the deals are structured and how do you get to that type of return? Like how are the deals financed?
Yeah, so we try not to tell anyone that, Aakash, but we've got a lot of know-how within the business. We've got a lot of trade secrets, but fundamentally, we've got access to financing based on the quality of our, long-term behavior and reputation that other people can't access. We have terms that other people can't access because they haven't earned those terms, and we have a way of structuring deals because of the trust that we can envisage and the track record that we can prove, where the component of equity versus debt is certainly much lower for us than it would be for other people. But I just got off a call today with a firm that want to join us. They're prepared to do things with us as a partnership because of this 51-49 partnership, where if we make $1, we make $1 together. If we lose $1, we lose $1 together, and allows us to structure and put this thing together in a way that other people can't do. if you turn up to somebody and say, look, open book, you can go and visit any of our firms, you can look at any of their numbers, you can look at the financing agreements and cash flows, whatever you like. And Kenny Aakash, and he's very open, with these people. It's no problem. They're happy to do things for us that they wouldn't do for other people. Most of the deals we see happening are really cash out deals. And this is, people are buying 100%, which means somebody's selling 100%. When people talk about acquisitions, they're focusing on themselves. Whereas we talk about partnerships where we're focusing on the other person. And so if I'm making an acquisition, that means somebody else is making a disposal. And so I'm not sure I want to buy something that somebody is disposing of, but I'm very keen to partner with somebody in an endeavor together. And those two things, the reason there are different words is because they're completely different things. And so that means that there's, completely different financial outcomes. Remember, when we're getting a 40% return on equity, so is the person that I've partnered with. They're pretty excited about that. If I give you a call and say, would you like to make a 40% return on equity with me? I can find a lot of people that are pretty keen on that.
Yeah, of course, that's a great selling point, and I guess that's why a lot of firms join. And I think from an investor standpoint, what's really interesting is, as you showed on the slide, that there's this sort of runway for M&A is huge, especially now that you're have expanded to America and now potentially UK. Just want to get a sense across the different geographies. Are there differences? Is it what's similar, what's different, what's difficult? Because usually they say going from your home base comes with challenges, going away from your home base.
Yeah, I think it's worth people listening to the Acquired podcast episode on Starbucks. And when you listen to it more than once, because I think it's phenomenal. Maybe listen to it 3 times. I certainly have listened to it about 5 times. But then every time they say Starbucks, replace in your mind that word with McDonald's. And then go and really look at McDonald's. They're in over 100 countries, 4 or 5 regions. There's a playbook there for global expansion that Starbucks followed. So there's sort of, again, a vein of thought. So there's what McDonald's did. Starbucks just duplicated McDonald's. And then once you've done that study, ask yourself why, if people are drinking coffee in all those markets or eating hamburgers in all those markets, are they paying taxes in all those markets? And then look up the large global accounting firms, and you'll notice that many of them are in dozens of global markets, and they have been for 50 years. And then sort of ask yourself, well, given that that's been possible, would it be possible for Kelly Partners to do something similar? And, I think we're not trying to take a rocket to the moon and then make it come down and land. We are doing something that others have done before. I just think we're doing it with a model that is very materially better and is very much more fit for purpose for sort of the next 25 years than the last 25 years. So the similarities, people's DNA is the same everywhere. Government's willingness to tax is largely the same everywhere. There's a few exceptions, but not many. And the way and what governments tax, there's more global cooperation than ever. So people are taxed on income, they're taxed on capital gains, there's fees and charges, there's estate taxes or not. What you're being taxed is very, very similar than our business is taxed. So look, I think if we're going to follow our clients in growing globally and they can grow globally, then surely as professionals we can grow globally with them. But yeah, it's not without risk, but you'll see us just pursue that gently, step at a time. We would consider, I'd certainly consider my number one role Chief Risk Officer, and I would consider that my understanding of risk is as good as anyone engaged in this type of activity anywhere in the world.
Yep, got it. And maybe last one for me. I'm always amazed at how you get so much done with your time. Like you clearly read a lot of books. You're managing the business, doing M&A. So I just like you to share how you spend your time. Now you've got different geographies to cover, but basically, how do you get so much done? And how do you structure your time?
Yeah, so mostly life's about standards. And so when I was 22, I went to interview the former Prime Minister of Australia, Bob Hawke. He was the most successful post-war Labor Prime Minister, having won 4 elections in a row to be re-elected. And when I was in the reception with his PA, I said to her, "What are all those diaries? Are they Christmas presents?" And she said, "No, they're Mr. Hawke's diaries for the next 5 years." They were large desk diaries. I said, "What do you mean the next 5 years?" She said, "Well, look, he's invited to a lot of things, Brett, like the Olympics, like the United Nations, la, 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 and I have to keep the diaries 5 years in advance." And so my standards and my appreciation and the broadening of my mind was occurring during these interactions where I thought I was busy because I was planning the next month, Aakash, whereas there are other people out there who have to plan their diaries 5 years in advance. So I got into the habit of sort of organizing myself, some years in advance, plotting out my diary. That's next 2025. I planned the kids' school holidays, then I planned the major events for our group, and then I planned the learning that I need to do, events I want to attend during the year. And then I work very, very intensely in the gaps that are left over. That goes into my diary, have quarterly goals. I carry around a little card in my diary with my goals. I stick it to the wheel of my car where I spend a fair bit of time. And, I just reflect on those priorities every day. So by being the most organized person that you can be with a clear plan of what you're trying to achieve, aligning your actions to those plans and keeping what I call scorecards, it's a little methodology that I developed through, reading from 1,000 other people and observing them. I've met some of the highest performing people in the world across every endeavor, Olympians, billionaires, academics, religious leaders, everything. And I've tried to just pull from them how they actually achieve the things that they're trying to do. To me, success is not defined by some other person. I defined, out of my first book, success as being the ability to achieve your own goals, whatever they may be. And so I needed to build a system to be able to do the things that I wanted to do. I had a brother die at 45 in a car accident. I was 30 at the time. I always had this saying that time is limited and death is certain. Some people wander along, living as if they're gods, that they'll live forever. If you've ever had somebody near to you die at a time that they weren't planning, it puts a level of urgency into you that you might not otherwise have. So I'm very serious about living the best life I can while I have the time to live it. But I'm not a person that takes myself seriously. In this forum, it's difficult for me to tell my jokes that not everyone might understand. But I'm just a very, very focused person, as it turns out, for better or worse, right? As you get older, you get to know yourself better. I really came out like this. Apologies to all. It's just it has its benefits, and I'm sure it has its afflictions. Other people are way more chilled out than I am. I look at them and think that's kind of a gift in itself as well.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing. Definitely inspirational. And no, thank you again for going
And look,
deeper.
Aakash, that's like, if you know this much about this sort of random stuff, when we go into a firm, we're bringing this type of understanding into those firms. So, hey, you're a partner, how are you trying to live your life? You want to be healthier, wealthier, wiser? How do we set you up for success? What's your calendar look like? I don't have one. What are your goals? No, I'm not quite sure. Righto, let's sit down through this program that we've developed. It's a partner accelerator program, and get them clear on, okay, what are you trying to do with yourself? What are you trying to do with your family in the next 25 years? What's your 10-year plan? What's your 25-year plan? I keep 25-year goals, right? So 25-year goals, and reset them. So as we bring that to a partner group, it's very difficult for your people to be inspired or moved by leadership that's not inspiring and not moving towards goals. So if we can fix the leadership, they give a great example to their people. Then we do that with the managers within the firm. Then we try and do that with our people. And to whatever degree somebody's interested in learning, there's that old saying that the sort of teacher appears when the student is ready. And so, we bring this learning culture, into and this learning machine, if you like, into these businesses. And we believe that we can unlock an enormous amount of capacity from the people. I'm often asked, how do you shift these margins? And I say to people, Nelson Mandela was once somebody's employee. Steve Jobs was once somebody's employee. There are unbelievably high quality people within your business. They didn't grow up with a billionaire next door. They didn't grow up next door to an Olympian. They often don't know how to unlock their own personal potential because they've never met anyone that did. And so if we can create an environment where those people can just be a better version of themselves, just a bit better, right? Not, they don't have to become whatever, but if they can start to unlock some of their potential, I love people, I believe in people, then the capacity of that business to sort of to grow from the inside out is massive. Now I know it sounds very zen and weird, and it is probably very zen, it's probably very weird. But if you go get a personal trainer for your gym, the studies reveal that you will lift between 25 and 40% more in every single session. So for us, really just personal trainers for accounting firms are setting up the right environment, the right vibe, the right sense of what's possible, the right energy of who you could be if you decided to be the person that you said you'd be when you grew up. And let's face it, we're all grown up, so now's the time. This is, life doesn't have to be down and out miserable drudgery. And too often as a young guy within these accounting firms, it was fucking misery. Like I used to look at the boss and think, well, mate, if you're that miserable, what hope do the rest of us have? So, leaders are responsible for the vibe they create in the place. They're responsible for the energy that they drive in the place. And I know that I can walk into a room, change the energy in that room for better or worse. And if we can give that awareness to all of our leaders within the firm, at leaders at every level, and get them to sort of power on the way they conduct themselves, then frankly, we're not in an industry where there's a bunch of competition, right? You're not going to hear anything I've just shared with you in any firm that I'm aware of anywhere in the world. And I've met with over 1,000 accounting firms. Most of them have been conditioned to believe that everything has to be miserable. And so, yes, some of the work we do is painful and difficult and whatever, but you can always bring your own attitude to whatever you're engaging in. And that's
amazing. Yeah, amazing.
Now at the end, like investors, they'll go, oh, look at the numbers. And I'm like, yeah, they're an outcome, right? Like we're an input organization. You get the inputs right, you'll get the right outcomes. I'm only proud of the numbers to the degree that they just show people an outcome. But I'm much more proud of the quality of alignment around mission, values, vision, and behavior of our people. Right? The rest's just a scoreboard. Right? I'm watching the game on the field. That to me is just amusing. Because to me, that's why I love Buffett so much, Adam, is that, I think he's conducted himself incredibly well. And what burns his competitors is how well he's done financially. But they've missed the point that that's just an outcome of the way he's conducted himself in the business. And that's really what we're all about. It's good fun, by the way. Most people like it.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks. That was a really great answer, very comprehensive. I think a good place to wrap it up would just be to get your thoughts high level, and I want to leave this open-ended about what you're trying to accomplish with the business, let's say over the next 10, 20, 30 years, or however long you envision yourself doing this.
So, Adam, fundamentally, I grew up in Australia. I love Australia. I believe Australians, everywhere Australians participate, they're leaders in just about anything they do on a global basis. They're intelligent, hardworking, challenging types of people. But our industry in Australia doesn't have a global accounting firm, and that's bad for Australia. In order for Australian businesses to be competitive, grow employment, make any type of contribution or impact, they have to get a return on their capital investment on a global basis. Now, to expand globally, you need law firms that can help you, you need banks that can help you, and you definitely need accountants that can help you. So, to me, there was a clear blue ocean opportunity to build Australia's global accounting firm for driven private business owners. Businesses are staying private longer than ever, and they are growing globally. And so rather than tell other people to do it, I'm not that guy. I'm like, life is show business, not tell business. So I'd rather show people by just quietly growing out this global firm. We are now the same size in the US, that it took me in 18 months that it took me 11 years to do in Australia. We're the only Australian firm that owns an accounting firm in the US. There are more than 60,000 Australians in LA. There's more than 100,000 of them in New York, which is the second largest expat market in the world. And I expect to be in the UK soon enough. We've partnered with Kudos International, which is a global network of 60 firms in 48 countries, which anyone with even slight insight will understand that now gives us a global posture into, more than 48 countries. We're a good shot of pulling off this vision of building out at least the skeleton of a global Australian accounting firm. And once we've got that skeleton, I believe over the next 25 years, I've just turned 50, that we can put some muscle on that skeleton and build out, essentially global infrastructure, as an accounting firm that can help Australian businesses take, their quality products and services and winning culture that is very egalitarian, very multicultural, very respectful of people and their differences, with great governance, rule of law, all the things that most countries wish they had, more broadly to the world. And so, from an impact point of view, I believe in capitalism. I think it's the best mechanism for allocating resources. Doesn't mean it doesn't have its faults, but it sure as hell beats any other stupid system we've seen. And so, we've got this drive to make a difference. You only get one life, and I'm really pleased and proud of our, more than 100 partners now that have chosen to join us in the mission to build out, this organization. None of them had to. We don't pay more for firms than other people. And frankly, the stringency around with which we bring partners in is extreme compared to anything else in the industry. And so these people have really chosen to get on the path with us and pursue this mission with vigor that is frankly amazing. And, as I said, time is limited, death is certain. The only thing you can really control is who you spend your time with. And I'm incredibly pleased to spend the time with the people that are in our group, and people like Aakash and others that we attract all around the world. The shareholder base of the company is gobsmacking. And frankly, every day energizes me with their input and ideas for what we're doing. So look, it's always a great time to be an accountant. It's a privilege to lead our business. I think it's I wake up every day, as I say, bashed with blessings. We're in a good position to do good things, and that's all you can ask for.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Wise words. I think I for one appreciate your very thorough and thoughtful answers to our questions, and once again really appreciate the time today and for laying out the investment case for the business. Very interesting, and thank you for being a part of this. And Aakash, thank you as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Adam, for organizing, and Brett, as always, thank you so much for your time, and we're glad to be on this journey with you for hopefully the next 50 years.
Thank you, Aakash. Thank you, Adam. We'll share the deck that you saw today, some of those slides. We've got a very comprehensive deck. I'll share that with you, Adam. I'll get Ken to make a PDF and send it to you. You can share it with your listeners. And I'd like to emphasize in a gentle way that I'm here today because Aakash invited me, and he's a great friend of mine and long-term investor. And Adam, I do try to make time. I've been an incredible beneficiary of the generosity of other people's willingness to teach me. And so when people ask me to share some of our thinking, I'm happy to do that. And genuinely, my time with you today is not encouragement for anyone to buy our stock. Although we'll run the business in a way that you'll be better off if you do.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. We will share the recording to this webinar as soon as it's available, and have a great rest of the week and weekend. Thank you again very much for your time.
Thanks, guys. Got to go and talk to a few people about their accounting firms.
Best of luck. Thanks again.
We're on the move. Thanks, guys.
All right,
Bye.
thank you.